Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
Guys, welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I'm excited. We got my man Mike here today with PicoSolutions. Dude, so for people who are like, who the hell is Mike, right? Give us a quick high level.
I mean, most people will actually nickname me Pico.
Really?
Yeah, that's the core values. All the companies that I've started and founded and whatnot are all Pico something, right? PicoSolutions.
I did see that in my research.
Pico
yeah,
Fit.
Pico.
Yeah, and it means proactive, not reactive. Innovation is
Got it.
empowering. Customer over profit and optimistic mindset. It's my personal values.
Yeah.
Because I'm always about, especially that customer over profit part, is like, what can I create economical? And also, that tends to be more high volume that way versus, you know, killing in the profit doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to be successful because you could only get a couple
100%.
sales, and when things go, the wrong way, you probably lose that business. You're done.
Done.
Yeah, you're much more stable when you have more things that are economical that people can afford, whether it's up or downs from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, so next question: what started your journey in entrepreneurship? How did you what was your first venture?
Yeah, entrepreneurship I've been doing since I was about 9 years old. I'm 37 to be transparent, and 9 years old I was selling candy, ice cream. Obviously I didn't know cost of goods sold at that point, my parents, right? But long story short, by 10 I was taking over a paper route. I was having my sister deliver them while I literally built the sales. I built the route. That was just something I didn't know that I was doing entrepreneurship. I thought I was just building something, right?
Yeah.
And slowly but surely it came into other ways of making money.
Right.
But in college was really kind of the start. I actually acquired my relative's company, and it was just a hobbyist thing.
Right.
And it actually was kind of the foundation of how everything now is what it is.
Wow.
But I took that over, ran it out of my dorm room.
Wow.
And then
Where'd you go to
from
school?
there. So I went to Felician College at the time. Now it's Felician University.
Yep.
They gave me a full ride for actually running.
Oh wow.
So that
I was gonna eventually ask you about that.
Yeah, that paid for everything. So,
dude, let's go.
Yeah, I took that over. I wanted to go to Villanova, to be honest.
Right.
That was my goal. I wanted to go, but my parents honestly don't come from a lot of money.
Right.
I'm self-made in a sense, and
Yeah.
bottom line, I was like, all right, free or $44,000 a year. It was a no-brainer for me.
Totally. Yeah. And again, that adds up, man. A lot of people get themselves in a lot of debt with college.
Yeah.
So
too much.
Definitely, appreciate and respect your route, because economically it makes total sense. Yeah. So it's funny when you said that, I'm thinking the quintessential salesperson's start of their journey is always the paper route. How many paper routes have made entrepreneurs?
and now it really doesn't exist, unfortunately.
Right.
But restaurants are definitely the next thing that still exists for people to get into. I believe that's actually, I've done every job in a restaurant you can imagine. And I believe every single one of those jobs taught me a skill in order to do and understand how to run the business.
I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I was big in, so I was a server for many years.
Awesome.
Prior to Adapting Social. And that was the thing where I kind of jumped over from doing that, and then, because I didn't go to college. So for me, I was trying to figure out my shit. I went to Ocean County College for a semester. Was I don't know what I'm doing. And while I was doing it though, I was still, because I started adapting when I was in high school. I was 17. Wow. So and my journey was my parents don't come from a lot of money either, and so essentially I started young, and then long story short, I found myself in a position where I was the restaurant business really did give me, number one, when you're a server, as an example, you get good at multitasking. You have to. This person wants a drink. This person needs a straw. That person wants their steak. And there's so much happening at once. You have to go in the kitchen. You're talking to different people. You're dealing with different cultures, right? Behind the kitchen, and then you're managing money. You're giving people this, you're public speaking in some cases. So I agree with you 100,000%. I think that is such a great business. I have my first child on the way. I have my first son on the way.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, and thank you. And I always tell my wife, way before we were pregnant, I was when we have a kid, they're gonna work in a restaurant.
100%.
You just learn so much.
I mean, both of my kids, that's why I plan on it.
Yeah.
I have a 9 and a 5. They got, my 9-year-old already does work for me now.
Oh, cool.
And he gets paid. He tried to negotiate with me on. He's like, Daddy, minimum wage is this. I'm like, I'm giving you, money, all right?
Yeah.
It's simple as that. And he's investing it. I'm teaching him
Right.
also how to do that.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
And so let's shift real quick. So
Sure.
when it comes to children, like I'm in this phase obviously right now. Like when I got married, like anytime I'm doing like a big milestone thing in my life, I always like to ask advice of people who have been there. And obviously you're a father of 2, as you mentioned. Is it a son and a daughter, or
Yep.
2 sons?
Son first and then daughter.
No kidding. Okay.
Luckily.
So yeah, right. So boom, boom, got them 2 done. So now, any advice for me or anybody watching that's like an entrepreneur that's gonna be having a kid, like on like I don't believe in balance, right? A lot of people utilize like work-life balance, right?
Yeah, that's not the thing.
I'm like a work-life harmony person, right? Because they have to coincide with each other, they have to work together. Any advice on those types of things?
I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, just bring them along for the journey.
Yeah.
You know, wherever I go, they come.
Love
I mean,
it.
I was doing a call with a client in Canada literally 2 days ago, and I had to take the video call because I was in Brooklyn, and my kids are in the back. And my
Love it.
son's making, you know, like he's just moving around because he's
Right,
bored.
right.
And I'm just like, but people right now it's a little bit easier because people are more, you know, okay with that.
Right.
But the reality is, anyone should just get over it. If they don't want to respect that as your client. You know, I had my kids since day one. They've been in my office while I'm having client meetings. It doesn't matter.
I
just
love that.
adapted to that.
Yeah.
Adapting.
No
so
pun
bad.
intended.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the main thing.
Right.
The work-life balance and all this other stuff. Nah, just you make it work. I mean, your wife and you will, you know, figure out elements there, and then you call upon even sometimes staff to help out with certain things if it
Right.
means the bottom line, right? When it
Totally.
comes down to it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I think, you know, it's so interesting because I think inclusion is never really thought about. I guess it depends
Yeah.
on your job, but
It does.
you know, but I think it's so interesting, and I love that for me in my position, because like, you know, again, we're a remote optional company, so our
awesome.
team has access to our offices if they want to leave their house, you know, and come to an office environment. But like, you know, but me, I have to get out of the house. Like I can't stay home.
Gotcha.
But I love the thought of being able to, like, you know, do what I'm doing, like not have it be a big deal that like my kids are around, or like, you know, like that's going on. I love that thought process. Thank you.
course.
And then let's even shift to like so is your wife in your business as well?
So my wife's a CFO, but she also has her own business.
Oh, okay.
So I have pretty much really 3 businesses, and
Okay.
she has 2.
Okay.
Of her own.
Got it.
But together we work in different ways.
Got
I
it.
am really more of the sales and marketing kind of guy.
Yep.
Really business development in a nutshell. But she's in operations and finance. She's a CPA, or she has a tax consulting and a CPA
Wow.
firm. So she rocks and rolls.
Wow.
So
My wife's my CFO too.
that's scary a little bit right there, right? Yeah, control the money, right?
right. Better not screw up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, so that's cool, man. So one of the things I always like to ask is there some sort of routine that you have, you know, for your, you know, to start your day, to set your day up for success, whether it's like a ritual, or even and also with your evenings, like is there something you prep the next day, or like go to bed a certain way, or do something before you go to bed, whether it's reading, whatever. Like, is there any sort of OG Michael ritual?
To a point. I do let myself be flexible. Because as an entrepreneur, you know what? You drive yourself so hard sometimes,
Yeah.
you need to adjust your schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to work out in the morning. I like to get 2 or 3 workouts before
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
Wow.
You know, because I'm a
Yeah.
triathlete. And, you know, that's my thing. That's what's driving me. I'll do a swim, a run, or bike, you know, 2 of those 3 usually before I start
Yeah.
my workday.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Is that so? What's your favorite out of those? Swimming, running, or
You know
or
what?
biking?
I would say it's the swimming.
Yeah, I love swimming, man.
But interesting enough, my best of it is the bike. And
Really?
It somehow is the one I never actually did until the pandemic.
Right.
And I had a bike, but I never rode.
Got it.
And then during the pandemic, I did. But running, paid for college and everything else, I was pretty decent.
So that's so good, man.
But
So
swimming
cool.
since 3.
Wow.
Yeah, I was thrown in the water. It was kind of that philosophy.
Oh.
If you swim, you're my son. If you don't, we don't know you. kind of thing. And we're very similar. My wife and I, my wife's again from Shanghai, and
Yeah.
I'm German background. It's like German Italian, right?
Yeah.
Those 2, all that together, like our culture and
Yeah.
our philosophies are, let's get it done and move.
Right.
You know, move forward.
Right.
You know, sometimes you got to take a step back before you take 2 steps forwards, but
Couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, it's a matter of
That's
thinking.
really cool, man. I love that. And one of the things that I realized though, so for me, my 2022 like mantra was to like just figure out like what it is that, you know, my body and what works for me. Because again, like being a young entrepreneur when I was like 17, like I was like just like looking at people like Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, like what are these all massive successful people doing in their morning rituals? And so I always copied it, right? Like, and I would wake up at like 4 a.m., work out, read books, do whatever. And I never like loved it. I got used to it, but I was like, this is what I have to do, right? If I want to become more successful, like this is what I have to do. And I think a lot of it is a lot of success came from that, right? Like being up early, thinking of things, doing the right things, working out, fueling my body, my mind, and my spirit. And I think one of the things that I went into this year, so like COVID was like a huge deal for me personally and for business. I just learned a lot. And so I came into this year where I was like, all right, I'm done following everybody else's thing when it comes to my morning. I'm going to try myself. Right. And I love you said flexibility. Yeah. And so I did that. And so I would always go make myself work out, go to the gym, do an X. And I've worked out, like I used to bodybuild. And so I just got so over it that I was like I never wanted to work out in the gym. But so part of my whole discovery here was like, all right, well, what can I do outside of working out? Because I don't want to work out, but I need to move my body. Yeah. And I got into boxing. Awesome. And I love it. Like literally, I fucking love it. Like it's amazing, and it doesn't feel like I'm working out. It's just fun to me. So anybody out there, like I think that's a big thing. Is just kind of like giving yourself that flexibility, right? And I think I love that you said that.
Well, you need the outlet. I mean, triathlon, it takes up a bit. I work out 15 hours a week. Wow. So just on top of running the business and the family. Right. But the reality with all of it is that without that, honestly, I don't feel complete. I know that's a cliche statement as it can be, but the fact is, that's what gets me going. It's energy. I mean, I use all three of the disciplines for a different purpose. The swimming, you're in the water. You're meditative. You can actually, I figure out every single problem I ever have in that water. Wow. Because what else am I to do?
Do you swim in your pool or do you go to a gym?
So I go to a gym and I'm also on a master's team. I actually took 19 years off of swimming and got back into it, and then actually went to nationals for masters this past April.
Holy shit.
Yeah, or March for that matter.
So you're a beast.
I just certain things. It just when I go in, it's all in or all out. I'm binary, straight with that. It's it's 0 1s in my mind.
Right.
So I'm sure you're the same way. It's most entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
But like I want to piggyback off of what you said before though, with that following other people's routines. I find that the worst idea anyone can do, whether you're an entrepreneur or just anybody in general. Right. Because it's not you. No. You can try. Yeah. But you're your own person.
The trying is important, right? And I think, because like growing up, like my parents weren't entrepreneurial. They weren't like big with personal development. So I never had somebody pushing me, be like, hey, go read a book or go do this. And even a good example, like one of my clients, like, and this blew my mind, but so when I think his kids are like, they're old enough and cognitive enough now to like know like right from wrong and blah, blah, blah. I don't know their age, but like he said that like when, they want a bike, right? So he's like, Sally wants a bike. So, all right, well, we're going to come with the money. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, and if you're not going to come with the money, what are you going to sell? Right? Like, and he's like showing them how to like sell things on Marketplace. And like, obviously he'll do it, but like they have to like, whatever. So it's like, what are you selling? What are you getting rid of? Or how are you going to make the money, to get this bike? Like, I'm not just giving you this bike. And so anyway, so just full circle, I think like, looking back, it's like, I think you do need some sort of like, okay, let me try a couple things. So this is what Tony Robbins does. Cool. Maybe not I did it for like 10 years. So I did it for 10 years. And I remember my wife would always be like, why are you up so early? She would obviously, she's a very light sleeper. So when we get up at 4 a.m., now she's up and she's like, oh, I gotta try to go back to sleep now. Like, why? And she'd always fight me on it. Like, what are you waking up so early for? Yeah. And now I wake up at like 6:30, but it feels like I'm sleeping in, like for me.
No, I hear you on that. I actually trained myself to wake up no matter what, alarm or not, to the sun. And so we luckily live right on the water in Jersey City, and nice. The sun comes in.
Boom.
So it's usually, I'm right up usually before. Okay. It's like, obviously it's the body's like that anyway. Yeah. But I trained myself about 1.5 years to almost 2 years ago at this point to do that. So I still have the alarms as backup, because obviously sometimes you're just like, I want to kind of get a little more sleep. I go back here and there. But for the most part, as soon as that's up, I'm up.
That's so cool.
So rock and roll,
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So one of the things that I find so fascinating about long distance runners, right? So like I did high jump.
Okay. I tried it, but I landed on my head. And I'm kidding not. It was my first and only concussion in my life.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you actually fell on your head.
I fell on my head, got concussion. That was back in middle school. And then I was jumping about 5'4", and I was only about 4'6" at that point.
Wow.
So anyways, but the thing is, I got the concussion and tried again. Wow. But now let me let you go on.
That's wild. Well, middle school. So for middle school, I was I've always been an athlete. I did like basketball, football, wrestling. And so one of my coaches was like, dude, you need to go do track. He's like, because like you just got to get faster. And I was like, okay, because he's like, I was taller than everybody. He's like, you just need to put more, momentum behind it, my basketball coach. So I was like, all right. So I tried track for running, hated it. It's not for me. I don't like running. So before I quit, the coach was like, the track coach was like, why don't you try high jump? I'm like, nah. And then I saw a couple of people doing it, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. I wound up doing it. I set the school record that year.
That's awesome.
And then I did it in high school. And then for obviously college, I didn't go to college. But I loved it, man. It was really cool.
It's challenging, and it's got a lot of just since entrepreneurs look at something, how can I improve it, efficiency and effectiveness of it.
Right. And that's what it was. But so anyway, going back to my question for you, is what I've always been so fascinated by long distance runners is like, what are you saying to yourself when you're like in like the fucking like fourth quarter, like, and you're like fucking dying, like what keeps fucking, you moving forward in those moments?
You know the book Can't Hurt Me, right?
Is that Goggins?
Goggins.
Yeah, I know, but I haven't read it.
And so I'm reading right now. I'm averaging 2.5 books a week right now. I just started like 8 weeks ago, and goal was 1.
2.5. So what do you read, like 100 a day or something like that? 100 pages?
Well, it's all audibles. So I'm running, when I'm biking. So, but I also read at 2.0 or 2.5, depending on how my mood for the day.
Got it.
But anyways, I'm going through these books, but that book is straight up. One, the big thing he puts in there is that you always have 60% left in the tank, no matter who you are and what you think how much you're hurting.
Wow.
And it's fact. I was literally listening to it on a hard run. But to answer your question, is the fact of like, let's just keep going.
Right.
It's like, if I don't give up on this, other things I won't give up on. And I've learned that discipline from being a long distance runner. I've run about 6 marathons in my life, and I've done now 3 half Ironmans. But you're finishing the half Ironman with a half marathon.
Wow.
But when you're doing it, you're just like, all right, when I worked for this, number 2, this is now making me a stronger person, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
So that's when I describe anyone like why we're crazy runners. I'm part of a running club. We're all crazy. There's no ifs or buts. You do. And I might even be hiring one of my running club mates, because I'm just like, she's got so much energy and passion. Driving that into where I need her potentially on a seat on my bus.
Right.
Is gonna be killer.
Yeah. Yeah, Billy, energy and passion, man. It's everything, right?
You're a runner?
No, but just I'm saying for him in general, he's interning with us.
Okay, awesome.
But I think, one of the things, though, that I always say about entrepreneurship, and I think is definitely, similar for runners, is that you have to be fucked up in the head to be one or the other, right? Because like you're giving yourself pain, like when you're in business or when you're running, right? Like in running, as an example.
It's an outlet.
It's an outlet, right? And I think one of the things, so for me, like I mentioned, I did high jump. I wound up loving it. Did it throughout high school, and me and the other high jump dude that was on the team with me, it was only us two. We had to. So when we started the warm ups for the whole track team, everybody had to do a mile, like a jogging, just warm up mile.
That fun part, yeah.
Right. But there was like these woods that were right behind. I went to Brick Memorial locally over here.
Okay.
And so what him and I would do is we'd go hide in the woods because we didn't want to run. But all the runners, who were long distance, would always be like, that's crazy. And I remember having this one guy, Andrew. You might even know him if you're like a serious runner. Andrew.
Conklin?
No, Andrew B. I don't know if it's Brodeur or something. Anyway, he was like a huge, really big competitive dude down here by us.
Yeah, because my friend, one of my best friends, Andrew Conklin, who went to college with me, went to Brick.
Oh, maybe it is him.
But I think he was a little bit before you, a couple of years before.
Okay.
Yeah.
This guy was a senior when I was a freshman. Okay. So he would probably be 3 years older than me, so I'm 31. So yeah.
Might be, actually.
Yeah,
right around that.
So it might be him. I don't know. But this dude, is he blonde?
Yeah.
So it has to be him. That has to be him.
I mean, coincidental, right?
Yeah. So if not, that's crazy. But anyway, but I remember having a conversation with him one time where he saw, because nobody knew that we hid in the woods. Me and this kid, we were just fucking around, just waiting for him to get back and just jump on the end of the line.
Do your thing.
And we had a good conversation, and it's just like, he's like, dude, the reason why I love running so much is because when I do that, it's the hardest thing I'm gonna do in my day. And everything else is easy. It doesn't matter what the fuck it is.
Well, that's how I describe half Ironmans. I'll be doing Lake Placid full Ironman next year. That's gonna probably kill me that day, but whatever. The fact is, finishing my first half Ironman, I had never felt so defeated, but yet achieving so much. Yeah,
right.
It was very unique.
Yeah.
But after that day, it was in April 2nd, and long story short, everything got easier after that.
Right.
I see everything as half the challenge it ever was.
Right. And I love that. I think when you go through that type of pain,
Yeah.
it just changes, I think, perspective.
Yeah, it makes you more crazy.
Yeah.
Just a bit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we like to ask, and just get some, like, whether it's our team members or whatever else, like, if there's any questions for our guests.
Sure.
So one of the things that, we got asked was, so if you could go back in time, right, and, speak to the, Michael and, let's call it even maybe middle school, right? What advice would you give yourself knowing everything you know now?
I wouldn't go back that far. I wouldn't have to.
Right.
So my Instagram handle is the PICO Journey, right?
Right.
And it's actually the foundation of a book series that I'm going to be writing, and I'm starting to outline now. But long story short was the fact of understanding who I was and understanding who I am.
Right.
It's a matter of being able to empathize with people more, etc.
Right.
So you might be that hungry, runner, crazy, etc. And that's your personality, and you run with it.
Right.
But being able to emphasize even out of middle school, high school, college, and young, like the start of my entrepreneurial career,
Right.
all of those,
Right.
I would say that would be my summary of emphasize with people more. So you can't just keep your big head all the time, right?
Right.
And every entrepreneur is a little egocentric, right?
100%.
Just a tad.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah, but that would be my advice to
Okay.
basically burst the bubble.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we have, we're down to the final 2 questions.
Sure.
And we have what I like to call the harder question.
Sure.
And then the semi-hard. They're both like, they're both a little, one's more challenging, one's less challenging. Which one do you want first?
Take the challenging one.
Okay. And so what I love about this is, I've been asking this question now for I think like almost a full year, right? And I line it up exactly like that. You want the hard one? You want the less hard one? And not one, because this is all entrepreneurs in this podcast, not one person in a year has said, give me the easy one first, which I love that. I mean, it's just such a, like, as a case study, like, holy shit. Like, literally not one person was like, just give me the easy one first.
Hit the peak before you.
Yeah. So, all right. So with the hard one. So now a lot of entrepreneurs, right, think about legacy, right? What you're going to leave behind, what you were known for, like what you accomplished, like who you were trying to become in this, when you had your time on this floating rock. And a lot of times we think about it as humans, like from where we are to where we want to be, right? So with this question, I like to reverse engineer the question, right? So I like to think about it as, the end, right? And work backwards, right? So the only thing that's actually left that's going to surpass you, your kids, everybody, their kids is, your gravestone, right?
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to come visit you, right? So if you were to write that today, what would that say?
I mean, I summarize things a lot with this phrase. I have a couple different ones. I guess you can say the mantras or whatever. But
Yeah.
the point is, I was, I am, I will be. It's a way of life and a mindset. It's kind of the way I like to present myself to people. I also have the other one, get it done, make it happen, and live your life to the fullest. They're all the same thing. And
Right.
it's just, you need to always be getting the most out of life.
Right.
And if anyone knows me for anything, that's where, one, they'll see me as crazy enough. But the fact is, I'm always living life to that full point, right?
Right.
And that's what the legacy that I leave, or what I have already going. I mean, being nicknamed now PICO by my investment group especially, is like insane.
Right. Right.
To be, I've known them for a couple of years during the pandemic. There's about 35 of us in this group. Half of them literally anytime they DM me, text me, whatever, PICO.
Yeah.
So almost that's really, I guess, actually coming back to it.
Just PICO.
PICO.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to stop.
Right.
I have the 3 and I have the book series, and the part of the book series is how to raise an entrepreneur is the first part of it, of a 3 or 4 part book series that I've outlined.
Wow.
And that's where I'm realizing, and you're talking about education. Honestly, if I didn't get that full ride, I would have either gone to community or not gone. Because I have a perception. My company does a lot in education.
Right.
Fact of the matter is, I don't truthfully believe that you have a cost-benefit analysis that's being done.
Right.
What's your ROI? The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So it's a shift in that mindset.
I love it, man. I love how ready you were for that too.
Oh, dude.
Because I didn't ask Grant that question, so if you listen to that podcast, I didn't ask him.
No, I was fast.
I wish I did, though, actually, now thinking back.
Oh, I'm sure he would be.
He would have had something nice to say.
He'll throw down.
Oh, yeah. All right, and so the last one is just, you kind of said it, but like maybe let's dive a little bit deeper, but Is there any adage that you've picked up over time, even if it's an original, Mike original, that like when you think about tough times, that like really resonates with you?
I mean, that's where like right now, I actually just recently took all social media apps off my phone, right? It was something that I know I'm an addictive personality. I have ADHD and a half. This is probably the calmest I can be, and bottom line, that itself is like, I post on my Facebook, like my story and put that on of what's going on, like once a day.
Right, boom.
But like, I'm failing so hard and so fast right now. That's why I know I'm on my path to success.
Yeah.
Right, of where I want to go next.
Right.
Right. And anyways, the whole point of all this is that's the mentality I maintain.
Yeah.
And every time I post anything on my social, it's always get it done, make it happen, live your life to the fullest, as I was saying in the last question. So they're kind of, those questions really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But times are always going to be tough. But if you can keep that kind of mentality in your head, you're always going to just think back to that. And let's just keep moving forward.
Right. What do you? So with that said, I lied to you. One more question.
Sure.
What if you had to determine and factor it down to either a sentence or one thing? What do you think your biggest reason for your success has been?
I mean, I could say it different ways, but most of the time it's always going to come out cliche, right? I don't give up.
Right.
I just don't. It's when I've won anything in my life, whether it was a race or whatever, it was the point of feeling like you're gonna die.
Right.
Right? It's like, whether it was a swim or it was a run.
Right.
It was at that point by the finish line and right after, you still feel like you were dead.
Right.
So with entrepreneurship, I feed off of that. So that's why, whether my wife thinks I'm crazy enough for 15 hours a week on the triathlon training, it's like that pain I feel during that is what I need to always cross the line and continue to be successful and build upon what I have now and what I want.
Right.
Because the want's always there. I call that the donut theory, which I learned because I went to a Franciscan Catholic college and I had to take theology.
Oh, wow.
And the priest literally said, this is the donut theory.
Oh, wow.
No one's ever completely happy. You're a donut.
Right.
There's a hole, and that's never going to get filled. It was something I took from that class, the only thing, I guess, to be honest. But
it's super abrasive, but I definitely vibe with it.
It resonates, right?
Completely. I had a good conversation, and I think you're a great person to actually connect with about this. But I had a conversation with one of my team members actually, and we were connecting and we were discussing like happiness. And I had this like epiphany where we were having a conversation, and we were talking about their happiness and whatever else, and and they were talking about like they're struggling right now, and a lot of projects and stuff. And it dawned on me because I remember at the beginning of my career when I first started AS, I was like, it was like struggle city, but I'm like you, like I'll never give up. I'll just keep going through it. But I remember having a conversation with somebody. I'm like, damn, like I feel like I was sold that dream of like when you do what you want to be doing, you never work a day in your life.
False.
And it's such false news. And the guy I was speaking to, he was like, why do you think that you need to be happy all the time? And I was like, I don't know. I just thought that's what everyone's supposed to do. That's what you're sold.
I 100% agree with
from
that.
everybody,
100%.
And for me, that was the realization that like the donut theory, it just like fucking blew my mind again. It's like, it's like in America, when you look at it, I used to have very bad anxiety disorder growing up. And I was somebody who was like, fought tooth and nail to make sure I would not take medication for it. I didn't want to blanket. I wanted to fix it.
Same thing with me, ADHD. Never touched anything in my life.
Right. And so, and again, not that there's anything wrong with it, just my route, just didn't want to take medication for it. And, I would always find myself in positions where I was like, shit, this sucks. And I'm in this like cage, it felt like. But, again, when you look back and you bring it full circle, it's like, we in America is one of the, like it's almost like when I'll never forget. I go to Paris every once in a while. We have clients out there and stuff. So every time I go there,
awesome.
Like I'm there, and when I first started going out there, they used to think I was so annoying because I was always so happy. And they're like, "Why are you so happy all the time? Like it's annoying, right?" And I was like, "Wow, fuck you."
I would say exactly the same thing.
And I was like, "Wow, okay."
Yeah.
And then it brought me back to the whole anxiety thing, where it's like we feel like we should always be happy, or we shouldn't be sad sometimes, or we shouldn't be this, and that's not the case, right? Like we, as humans, we're supposed to feel all these different emotions. That's why we have them, and so I think going back to obviously, that whole donut theory, you know, you're not supposed to always be fucking happy.
No, the way I look at it, and I actually heard this recently from somebody else. I don't remember who it was, but I probably listened to some podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, it was definitely one of the books that I read. I mean, blasting through all these guys, right?
Right.
Even Jordan Belfort on his sales books. Anyway, yeah, that guy's, he makes us look very normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But happiness to me is why be happy all the time. Then you're
Right.
not looking forward to anything.
Right.
Because when you hit that happy point, it's extra exciting.
Yeah.
Let yourself be down.
Right.
To get back up.
Right. I think it's so important. It's such a good rebuilder. It's definitely been for me, especially with like, the anxiety and whatever else that I've gone through. But yeah, anybody out there listening, I think it's important to give yourself that room and space to be upset, pissed off, happy, sad, but not looking at it like I'm not supposed to be sad.
Yeah, but never let the emotions drag you down.
Right.
You don't want them to be an anchor.
Right.
Just ride them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, if that makes sense to everybody else.
But Mike, thank you so much for being here, man.
God,
I really
appreciate it.
appreciate your time. Time's one asset we don't get back, so you spending it here with me and our listeners means the world to me, man. This is where you plug yourself. So where can people find you?
I mean, the PICO journey is Instagram, and at PicoSolutions, that's on Instagram as well. And those are the two main things that I'd love people to take a look at and see what we're doing. And with PicoSolutions, localizing, manufacturing. That's all anyone needs to know.
Boom. Dude, thank you so much.
John, thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, you as well.